Alright, let's explore the arguments given by the British philosopher G.E. Moore regarding common sense and how we know certain truisms. Moore is a significant figure in philosophy, especially known for his defense of what he calls common sense knowledge. In simple terms, Moore argues that there are certain facts that we all know to be true through our ordinary experiences, and we don't need complex philosophical arguments to prove them. These are truisms, or basic truths, that everyone intuitively understands. To illustrate his point, Moore uses simple examples like here is one hand, and here is another. By simply holding up his two hands and stating this, Moore believes he's pointing to a direct, undeniable truth. He argues that just by looking at his hands, he and anyone watching knows that his hands exist. He doesn't need a complex philosophical justification to convince himself or others of this fact. It's obvious. According to Moore, this kind of knowledge forms the basis of common sense. Moore's argument challenges skepticism, the philosophical position that doubts whether we can really know anything for certain. Skeptics, for example, might question whether our senses can actually prove that our hands exist. But Moore argues that common sense knowledge, like knowing we have hands, doesn't need defending. Instead, he argues that certain beliefs are so basic, they should be trusted unless we have a strong reason to doubt them. One of Moore's most famous works on this topic is his essay, A Defense of Common Sense, where he lists several things he claims we all know for sure, like the existence of his own body, the fact that he has had certain experiences, and that the earth has existed for a long time. Moore's goal is to defend these common sense beliefs from extreme skepticism. He points out that skeptics often create complex arguments to suggest we can't trust our senses. But Moore believes that these arguments actually demand more proof than the everyday facts they're trying to disprove. In other words, Moore is saying, if I hold up my hand and say, here is my hand, that's more convincing than any skeptical argument that might claim my hand isn't real. However, Moore's approach isn't without its critics. Some philosophers argue that just saying here is my hand doesn't actually address the deeper questions that skepticism raises. For example, skeptics argue that simply believing in something isn't the same as knowing it with absolute certainty. Others suggest that Moore doesn't explain why common sense beliefs are trustworthy, he just assumes they are. So, Moore's defense of common sense is essentially a challenge to radical doubt. It's the idea that some truths are basic. They don't need philosophical proof to be accepted. And this has influenced how we approach debates on what we can or cannot know for sure.